These are airplane landings that went wrong. Get ready, because they only get crazier from here. Let's start with this landing that was supposed to happen on water. The aircraft was actually built for that, but for some reason it couldn't handle the impact. Everything seemed normal that day until this plane tried to land at an airport in Texas. The aircraft couldn't stop in time. The runway was way too short and it was wet too. Despite the scare, everyone on board was okay. During a heavy storm in the UK, this plane tried to land, but what happens is enough to take your breath away. The wind was shaking the plane so badly it could barely stay stable, so the pilot had to abort the landing at the very last second. After an engine failure, this plane had to land in the middle of a river. Thanks to the pilot's skill, everyone on board made it out safe. At an air show, this old military plane clipped its wing on the ground. The impact was instant, but despite the scare, the pilot survived. In Brazil, a plane had issues with the landing gear and had to circle the airport for 2 hours. But in the end, something unexpected happened. Right as it was about to land, the gear suddenly came down, almost like magic. Luckily, everyone was okay. Watching this next video is seriously nerve-wracking. There was a hot air balloon right in the plane's path. We'll see how that ends in a minute. But first, check out this Ethiopian Airlines cargo plane that almost lost control during landing. The plane bounced hard on the runway, but the pilot managed to recover and no one got hurt. This Caribbean airport is known for being one of the hardest to land at. Every plane that comes in is a new challenge. At least the view is incredible, especially from inside the cockpit. It may sound impossible, but the pilot managed to land safely with more than 240 passengers, with the engine looking like this. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. What happened with that balloon? Despite all the tension, the pilot landed safely. This other pilot had to make an emergency landing in the middle of a field. He pulled it off perfectly, and both he and the co-pilot walked away without a scratch.
Holy shit. That's not it.
A huge tragedy could have happened if it weren't for the pilot's quick thinking and experience. But what exactly happened? We'll find out soon. First, look how much control this pilot needed. The wind was so strong, the plane almost tipped over. This next landing seemed to go just fine, until the pilot lost control at the end. Even with all the damage, no one got hurt. Look at how carefully this plane has to land to avoid a disaster. This airport is famous for how close it is to people and buildings, and every landing feels like a near miss. Same thing here. This one nearly hit people on a beach in Greece. Even with the danger, the spots become kind of a tourist attraction. In Australia, a plane lost power and nearly crashed into homes during landing. Everything seemed fine until the plane got hit by lightning mid-landing. Even with the shock, all the critical systems stayed on and the pilots nailed the landing. Turns out the lightning came in through the tail and exited through the wing. Thankfully, no one got hurt. Now get ready to be shocked by what happened on this flight. It could have ended really badly. The pilot saw something strange running along the side of the runway. It was a deer. If he'd landed 2 seconds earlier, it would have been a disaster. This pilot tried to land, but ended up crashing on a US beach. Scary moment, but he walked away unharmed. Then there was the flight where the tower gave permission to land, but there was another plane still on the runway. But believe it or not, that's actually allowed in some cases, and nobody got hurt. Landing in Portugal can be really tricky because of the strong ocean winds, but thankfully these pilots managed to land safely. This passenger put everyone's life at risk when he opened the emergency door mid-flight. No joke, you have to see the footage. But first, check out how fast this pilot had to land after an engine failure. The whole thing happened in under a minute. Another emergency landing during a hurricane. Now look what happened here. This passenger caught the exact moment the plane's wing touched the ground during landing. The pilot had to climb back up and try again, and despite the damage, it all ended well. In London, these pilots had to stay super calm to land the plane without losing control.
Easy. Whoa, yeah.
Even though they touched down, they realized it wasn't safe and immediately aborted the landing. Now let's go back to that emergency door incident. On May 26, 2023, a plane was preparing to land in Daegu, South Korea, when a passenger felt like he couldn't breathe, pulled the lever, and the wind rushed into the cabin, causing total panic. Passengers tried to stop him, but it was too late. Some people fainted, others struggled to breathe. At least 12 were injured and taken to the hospital. Luckily, the plane was already descending. If not, it could have been way worse. The man was arrested and said he was under extreme stress after losing his job. Have you ever thought about landing a plane with a wheel missing? This one really tested the pilots. They had to land without the front landing gear. Now imagine landing without any landing gear at all. This pilot had to pull off something completely out of the ordinary. And yeah, even the big guys aren't safe. The world's largest biplane had a landing gear failure and went down hard. But despite the brutal impact, the pilot, David Street, walked away unharmed. In this one, the landing gear tire blew out and the plane just collapsed, unable to stop. These two pilots were recording when they went through this terrifying experience. Just by looking at their faces, you can tell it was rough. This next case might sound like a joke, but it actually happened. A pilot forgot to lower the landing gear and almost caused a major accident. And sometimes things happen with no real explanation. Right after touching down, the landing gear just bursts into flames. Thankfully, they kept it under control. Now watch the moment a pilot narrowly avoids crashing into a jet during landing. Something very similar happened in Brazil. A jet entered the runway without clearance and almost caused a huge disaster. This scene is insane. The plane had to basically stand upright in order to land safely. And this one lost its brakes while landing, and the worst part? It was heading straight toward a busy road. We'll see what happened in just a moment. Now get ready for this video. A student pilot and his instructor had engine trouble mid-flight and had to land right in the middle of a highway. Luckily, the plane landed perfectly and no one was hurt. Something similar happened in this case. The plane even bounced on the runway, but managed to stay under control and land. In this other situation, the engine wasn't getting enough fuel, so they had to land wherever they could right away. This plane's brakes gave out during landing, and it ended up crashing into a car.
Not good. Not good.
Even though it was a scary situation, both the people in the car and the pilot were not seriously hurt. Something like that also happened during this landing, but this time it was the landing gear that failed. But don't worry, planes are actually designed to handle landings like that. They're called belly landings. When landing, the pilots weren't able to brake enough to stop the plane, and it ended in tragedy. Thankfully, it was just a cargo plane and the pilot and co-pilot were okay. This one even slid on the runway, but the pilots managed to stay in control and pulled off a successful landing. Now, this footage from a passenger is seriously scary. The plane had to land during a thunderstorm, and at one point you can actually see sparks coming from it. Why? The landing gear didn't deploy, and the plane ended up dragging along the ground. Shortly after, the aircraft finally stopped, and thankfully no one got hurt. This plane doesn't even look real. It's bouncing around like a toy. Even with the huge challenge, the pilots managed to land it. This jet lost control and crashed into the ground. Good thing the pilots ejected in time. Now, what this pilot did during landing is just unbelievable. He ignored all the plane's warning systems and insisted on landing no matter what. Even with the hard impact when it touched down, no one was hurt. Just imagine driving and seeing something like this.
Holy!
Scary, right? Or seeing a plane land right on a highway and destroy a car. The most unbelievable part? No one was hurt. You might think the weirdest part of this video is a plane landing with a parachute. But what's really surprising is the pilot's condition. We'll check that out in a moment. Now look at how dangerous it is to be near runways. This one almost hit people who were nearby. Out of the 6 crew members on board, only 1 survived. Now imagine being in the air and a part of the plane just flies off. That's exactly what happened to this pilot, but thanks to her experience, she landed safely. This one tried to land, but a small mistake caused the tail of the plane to scrape the ground and he had to go around again. And when a plane has problems in the middle of the desert, that's what happened here. Even though it was scary, the couple on board only had a few scratches. Now here's a terrifying moment at Miami Airport. In 2022, a plane was having issues with its landing gear. Right after it touched the runway, the gear collapsed, the plane skidded off and caught fire. Thankfully, everyone made it out alive, though a few people had minor injuries. This flight carrying 17 skydivers hadn't even fully taken off when something bizarre happened and it had to land again. A truck driver showed up right in the way and the plane flipped over. Now check out this landing that happened in Belgium. The most impressive part is the pilot's condition. He just walked away like nothing happened, no injuries at all. From this point in the video, brace yourself because we're about to see some landings that sadly didn't end well. What happens during this landing is unbelievable.
5, 2, 3, expecting that.
Oh, no.
Even though the scene was intense, only 21 people had to be taken to the hospital. This landing had to be aborted, but the engine was slow to respond to the new commands, which nearly caused a disaster. The next case happened as an Airbus was preparing to land in Tokyo, but at the same time, a Japanese Coast Guard aircraft was crossing the runway. The plane caught fire, but incredibly, all 379 Airbus passengers were able to evacuate. Sadly, 5 crew members from the other aircraft didn't survive. What happened to this plane was devastating, and it was all caught on camera. The flight was approaching the airport after leaving Seoul when it hit a concrete barrier. Only 2 people survived. In Brazil, a tourist caught the exact moment a plane ran off the runway after landing. In that accident, 4 people survived, and sadly 1 person lost their life. This pilot had to eject before he could land the plane safely, which caused an accident that took the life of a child. Now we move on to one of the most shocking accidents in recent years. In Nepal, January 2023, a Yeti Airlines plane was calmly approaching the runway in Pokhara. Everything seemed normal until... passenger started filming from inside the cabin, not knowing he was recording the final seconds of the flight. The crash was immediate, and all 72 people on board lost their lives. The wind was so strong during this landing that it almost prevented the plane from touching the runway at all. Despite the difficulty, the pilot managed to land successfully. Now here's a landing that was caught on several cameras at the Moscow airport. In 2019, an Aeroflot plane was hit by lightning and had to return quickly to Sheremetyevo Airport, but the landing didn't go as planned. Even though the flight attendants acted fast, 41 people still lost their lives. Now get ready for the saddest case in this video. In 1996, a hijacked plane attempted an emergency landing in the ocean after running out of fuel, but it couldn't survive the impact. Miraculously, 50 people made it out alive.